Hello and welcome to DFS Preview for the 2023 American Express. My name is Eric, and here at SweetSpotDFS, it's all about trying to hit the optimal lineup every single week. And in these DFS Preview videos, that means looking at the stats that I think you need to target in order to do just that. Which of course brings in the bucket system, which if you're unfamiliar with that, I have a video link in the description below that'll explain all about it. Not only will we be looking at the bucket system, we'll take a look at the tournament and golf course information. There are 3 golf courses this week. We'll briefly touch up on that. I used to live in this area, so I know a little thing about Palm Springs golf. It's La Quinta, Palm Desert, they're all together. We'll talk about those briefly. I have an interesting take, so I'll share that with you at that point in the video. We'll also be looking at past optimal lineup and GPP winning lineups of this event dating back to 2018. We'll also review the Sony Open just to show you how well the sweet spot process did last week, how well the buckets did, because then when I bring in the bucket system for this video, I want you to have a little confidence as I go over this. Because although we didn't really do well at the Sony Open, the buckets still succeeded. So we'll go over that all in this video. But first, we have some giveaways to run. Now, if you want an entry into next week's giveaway, all you got to do is be subscribed and comment down below. I want to reward those that participate on this channel, which again requires you to be subscribed and comment on any of the videos that I post. You get 1 free entry per video that you comment on any of the videos that I post that week. So this week, I'm probably going to put anywhere between 5 to 8. You can get 5 to 8 entries into next week's giveaway. Also, those entries to the weekly giveaway will then get transferred to the monthly giveaway that you see on the screen. So it all works in unison with each other. I want to reward you guys for participating on this channel. My way of doing that is giving away money, giving away sweatshirts, t-shirts, that kind of stuff. So this is my way to do it. Now, as you see on the screen, we need to hit the goal. You can see the goal all the way over there to the left, 473 out of 500 subscribers. We've been climbing pretty quick over this last month. We just need 27 new subscribers to hit that goal. And at the end of the month, I'm going to run the monthly giveaway. Someone will win $50. Again, if we meet that goal. If not, I'm going to give a t-shirt away. So I'm still going to reward you guys for participating in the channel. That t-shirt's going to have this logo on it. So just like the sweatshirt. And it's going to go to one of you guys that participates on the channel. So again, I want to reward those that participate on the channel, and this is my way of doing it. You can leave any comment on any of the videos you want. You can literally say hi. If you want to engage, I certainly reply back to every single comment that I see. So if you have a legitimate question, I will give you a legitimate answer. If you just want to comment in there just to comment, just to get a free entry, hey, I'm not going to blame you for that. Again, I want to reward you for participating, and plus the YouTube algorithm will see this kind of stuff, pick it up, and try to send it to other people. So you're helping me one way or the other, and then that way I get to reward you for doing that. So before we run the giveaway from last week, just one more reminder. I do prize picks. You can use the promo code SweetSpot when you sign up. And if you do that, not only do you get a deposit match up to $100, but if you put 20 bucks in or more, I'm going to give you $20 back. So if you do put $100 in, you're still getting $20 back from me. PrizePicks is still matching your deposit. So you double whatever you deposit, you're going to get 20 bucks from me. Nobody in the industry is doing that. They're just giving you that deposit match, which, by the way, that's what we also give. So not a big deal. You know, you're just getting an added bonus for using the Sweet Spot promo code. So there is a link in the description below that'll get you to that sign up page. And you don't even have to type in the promo code. Just go to the sign up page and boom, it'll already put it there for you. So highly encourage you guys to do that. Again, the link is in the description below. One more thing for giveaways. I'm going to throw the display on. You can see there is the monthly subscriber giveaway. I'm providing a cheat sheet. I do this every single week. I update it with the new tournament information. So this, again, is available to you for free. There's a link in the description there. Once you click on that link, I highly encourage you guys, go up to the file menu, go down to make a copy. That way you can use all the filters that I have on this spreadsheet. I have 2 tabs. One's called the Dream Sheet, one's called the Bucket System. So when I go over this video, or even the strategy video tomorrow, which by the way, we will go live at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can follow along with me. Just make a copy, put the filters on that I do, and then we can go through it together. So again, there's a link in the description below for this cheat sheet. I also will provide an optimizer tomorrow during the strategy video. I might even pull it up in this video. All you have to do for that is be subscribed. Basically, again, participate on this video, participate on any of the videos, and then you're gonna have to email me right there, contact information, SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com. Let me know you're interested in the optimizer. It utilizes all the conditionals for the bucket system, the marquee tee times, all that stuff. Makes it really easy with lineup building, which I think is going to help for this week as well. So again, if you want that, participate on the channel, subscribe, comment, and then email me at SweetSpotDFS@gmail.com. All right. Now that we got all of those out of the way, let's go ahead and run our giveaway. Man, I was going to get a drum roll soundtrack or a drum roll sound to do this because I think that'd be fun. But what I want to show you guys, so we have our weekly subscriber giveaway here. Everyone who participated on the Sony Open, as well as the TOC DFS review, so the Tournament of Champions review video, I did post that this last week, so that goes towards this giveaway. Everybody who could comment, obviously they're in here. I then also added that to the bottom of the monthly giveaway. Since the Tournament of Champions is up at top, you can see now the Sony is here. Again, one free entry per video, so it doesn't matter how many times you comment on a video, you're only going to get one entry for that video. Either way, it's my way of, saying thank you, putting you into the entry. I just don't want to, get some silly comments in there that's just like one word long, just a bunch of those. Like, I just want to limit it. I still want to reward you for participating, but it is limited one per video. So anyways, that being said, let's go ahead. Let's run this giveaway. So this is for $5. Whoever wins this gets $5 from me. There we go, Joanne. We finally got you. This is like Joanne's first time winning in a long time. We talked about it in the last preview video. She comments a lot. You can see she had 6 entries, and this entry is from the DFS strategy, the short version of that, the DFS strategy video that I went live with. So congratulations, Joanne. Contact me on how to get a hold of you, like where to send money, whether it's Venmo, PayPal, Google Pay, whatever. I will give you those $5. Now, just to show you that this isn't rigged, I have this all over here. The highest value ends up getting put right here. If I were to go ahead and just type something here, these will change because of Google Sheets' random function, so it changes. So now Barry R would have won. Any kind of command that you provide in Google Sheets will change that random function. It just kind of what would you say? It just restarts it basically. So if I were to hit no, that's one command. I hit yes, it's another command. Hit no. You can see the different videos that even show up with Joanne just winning the whole time. But it lets you know which video it was that that the randomizer selected, how many entries you had. So Joanne, congratulations. Again, I'm just showing that because I don't want anyone to think that it's rigged. All right, moving on. Let's go over the golf courses used. So we're going to go over the golf course information as well as the tournament information. This is a Pro-Am, first and foremost. This tournament is a Pro-Am, which means your groups are going to be 2 PGA Tour golfers with 2 Pro-Am partners. So it's going to be a foursome, but 2 of them are going to be amateurs. And I kid you not, some of these golfers are really bad. Some of these amateurs are really bad. That plays into the round of golf for the PGA Tour player, whether you like it or not. Now, some of these guys are good friends with the PGA Tour players. Some of them are just business partners, and they don't really know each other that well. They like to talk business. It's a way to network. So that's a lot of what these Pro-Ams are all about. It's also the PGA Tour's way of thanking the sponsors of a lot of their events and stuff like that, having these golfers come in. It ends up being a very, very long round of golf. I think like the average time is about 6 hours. for these golfers to finish round, that can play on someone's psyche. That could play on a PGA Tour player's psyche. So if you have, like, say if you know a PGA Tour player that has a really short fuse, like a Jon Rahm, or just can't stay focused for very long, like a Bubba Watson, which he isn't on the tour anymore, but those types of golfers, I would imagine more often than not would kind of be annoyed with this type of golf course or with this type of tournament. And we saw that last year with Jon Rahm. Remember him coming off the green and calling this an effing putting contest? See, I think that this type of tournament can get to someone like him. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Jon Rahm this week. So, although I say that, I'm just giving you information, whether you want to use that or just decipher it for whatever you want to decipher it for. Just kind of letting you know, this is a unique type of tournament. It's also a 54-hole cut, which usually it's 36 holes. With that, it's not a no-cut event, but I have seen GPP winning lineups have golfers miss the cut because you're getting 3 guaranteed rounds as long as no one withdraws, no one gets disqualified. You get 3 guaranteed rounds that go towards the DFS score, their DraftKings score. So as long as they're getting enough birdies, if this ends up being a high-scoring affair, and then maybe that Sunday is like really windy or whatever, and then it's not so high-scoring, you literally could have one, I wouldn't say 2 guys miss the cut, but you certainly could get one, and take down a GPP that way, or make decent money. Now, that's not, I'm kind of just giving you some information to feel comfortable with basically selecting whoever you want this week. Whoever you think is going to score well, pick those players. That kind of goes week in and week out, but I think you have more comfortability this week because you get 54 holes out of all of your golfers. You could definitely win a lot of your league contests with 5 out of 6, 4 out of 6 this week, because it's going to be about the same. We're looking for the best scores. Of course, I have a rant to probably provide at the end of this video, because I'm going to bring up finding the winner is really important, and that's kind of a contentious point, I guess, in the DFS industry. A lot of the higher up guys don't find that serious of a comment to make, like, oh yeah, if it was that easy we'd be able to find the winner all the time. I think they missed the point about what that really means, so I'll provide more of that towards the end of the video. Yeah, basically feel comfortable, be risky this week. This is the time to be risky. And when we go over past optimal lineups, you're going to find out that it isn't really your chalk. It isn't your, high ranking golfers that end up winning this tournament or doing well at this tournament. Again, this is a pro-am. It's not for everyone. I think it really, honestly, I think it favors the journeymen, the guys that are just hungry to, I shouldn't even say that because everyone's hungry on tour. The guys who've been struggling for a while, it's their way to get 3 rounds of golf under their belt or under their feet. And I think this helps rookies too. This type of tournament helps a rookie golfer because, it's the first time seeing a pro-am. I would imagine you're just excited to be at a tour event. Like, this is great. I want to be here. This kind of stuff doesn't bother me. Whereas if you're an established person like a Jon Rahm, I'm going to continue using him because he's just a perfect case. It might not be as fun, as exciting to be at this event. He has won here before, so maybe there's a little bit of good feelings there. But last year was a whole thing in itself, where he called it a putting contest and just didn't enjoy it. Anyways, moving on. We have 3 golf courses. By the way, there's 156 players in this field. They're going to be split up between the 3 courses. Again, rounds are going to average somewhere between 5.5 to 6 hours long. It's going to be long. Could be even longer than that. So putting them on 3 golf courses makes that feasible. Makes it, during this time of the year, 156 golfers getting through, all 3 rounds in 3 days. Whereas we've already kind of experienced some suspended due to darkness moments at the Sony Open. When you get kind of a full field event in January, February, we don't have a lot of sunlight to work with. So with that being said, 3 golf courses. We have the PGA West Stadium course. This one is designed by Pete Dye. That's something to think about, to look into. My stats are going to have that. I'll talk about that in tomorrow's strategy video. We have the PGA West Nicklaus Tournament course, as well as the La Quinta Country Club. Now, I have all these little shot shapes in here. It's not something that's necessarily required, but I think it benefits. So if you're reading this and you're kind of looking at, ooh, fades actually matter more than draws, use it, take it with a grain of sand. Like it's something to look at, but it's not like super imperative important. It kind of looks like fades, hitting a fade. So if you're a right-handed golfer, hitting a fade probably benefits golfers here more than hitting a draw. But of course, we've had Patrick Cantlay do really well here. He primarily hits a draw, like that's his primary shot shape. Siwoo Kim's done well here. He hits a fade. So do with that as you will. And of course, if it's a lefty, you think of the opposite. So like a Brian Harmon who draws the ball most of the time, being a lefty, this is kind of perfect for him. Other than that, I really don't have anything to talk about this golf course. It's dormant. Oh, I do. I have a lot of stuff to talk about this golf course. What am I talking about? If you aren't aware, you can go to the GCSAA. I used to go over this in my videos before. Let me zoom in for you. The GCSSA or SAA is the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. I believe that's what it's called. I worked at a golf course. I worked at several golf courses that were partnered with these guys, or our superintendent was a member of. And basically, every superintendent talks with the PGA Tour, lets them know how they're going to set up the golf course, or the PGA Tour tells them how they like to set up. But here's where you can come in and find out the turf grass for these golf courses. Here's my kind of interesting take. So you see these are all like Bermuda overseeded with POA. I literally just got I got a picture sent to me of the golf course. The golf course is being played. The rough is completely dormant. I didn't see any like little green patches. So I kind of made that comment to my buddy that lives out there. It's like, oh wow, the rough looks way more dormant than usual. He goes, oh yeah, it is even worse at the stadium course. So take that for what it's worth. Now, what you need to know is when a grass goes dormant, and this is what bothers me. I haven't heard anything this week, but I could literally pull up last year's American Express conversations people were having on Twitter about, this is Bermuda. You got to use golfers that like Bermuda. No, when it's dormant, when you see that yellow grass in the rough, that is the natural Bermuda that's there. That natural Bermuda is brown because it isn't in optimal growing conditions, meaning the rest of the course that is green isn't that Bermuda. It most likely isn't the Bermuda that you see on here. Now, there are different strains that can withstand colder weather and stuff like that, which is going on at the desert right now. More often than not, though, they have to overseed to fill in the patches that can't grow. So what that should tell you is do not, with any sort of confidence, use Bermuda stats. Go ahead and use them if you want. But I even tested this out last year, a couple of years ago. If you went by Bermuda stats, you wouldn't find any correlation to success to this tournament. None whatsoever, except for your big names that do well at every golf course that they play at. It isn't Bermuda. It's overseeded with POA and rye. Now, if you have ryegrass stats to go with, use those. 1000% use ryegrass as your grass for analysis, or weighting your models and stuff like that. Use ryegrass. Don't use Bermuda. Don't use POA. Use ryegrass, because the POA that's on these greens does not act like normal POA. You're not going to get these little these little buds in the greens that cause the ball to bump. These roll pretty true. And it's very I want to say like a thin grass. And that's kind of what rye is a thinner grass. The putts are going to roll pretty straight. The greens are pretty flat, kind of similar to Sony, although I think last week at the Sony Open, those greens tricked everybody. So I wouldn't, again, do not use Bermuda. Do not use POA. Use rye, or here's my, what was I going to call this? I'm just going to call it my interesting take. Use bent grass. Bent grass and ryegrass are the closest of any of the strains, any of the major strains, which you have Bermuda, POA, bent, and I would call rye another major strain of grass. Rye is usually what you use to fill in divots and stuff like that. It goes well with just about any grass, but rye acts very similar to bent grass. So I would use bent grass stats, and I did this last year, and we'll go over this. Why don't we go over it right now? So if I go here and I go to 2022, and we put a filter on this. Oh, it already had a filter on there. Let me scroll over to the grass portion of it. I recorded the bent grass, the POA grass, as well as the peat dye stats as well. I think, obviously, peat dye I think is very important. The only issue with this is we have basically 6 events each year that has peat dye, and one of them is the Players' Championship. They're all just slightly different with different fields. So it's hard to normalize stats over that short period of time because we're not going to see a lot of the same golfers at those events. So we'll have little flashes here, little flashes there, but we won't. It's hard to normalize those stats. There's not enough tournaments. But I do think you want to look at that because peat dye has a way of creating golf courses, and if certain golfers can actually master those, all the better. But here's what I want you to look at. So we're looking at our top 20 golfers. You can kind of see the POA events versus the bent grass. And I'm sorry if you wanted to see Bermuda stats. I think I have that in like 2021. I actually used Bermuda stats. There really isn't any way. I didn't have a way to show you bent versus Bermuda here. I went with bent versus POA. So just so you see this, like a lot of these guys have more events on bent grass than they do on POA events. But, you know, use your brain as how you want to look at this. So Hudson Swafford, better on bent. He won this event. Not very great on POA. Hoagie, better than he is on POA. I'm just going to say it that way. Lee Hodges has one event on each, but, you know, that would have been Lee Hodges' second event. He already had a 27th place finish on a bent grass golf course. This one, he got a 3rd place. So obviously bent a little bit better than POA. Brian Harmon, better on bent than POA. Lonto Griffin, not so much. It's the opposite. But then we have Zalatoris, better on bent than POA. Francesco, a little bit better than POA. Same goes with Denny McCarthy. Same goes... Oh, no, Patrick Cantlay is the opposite. My bad. Sung J M, better. Siwoo Kim, better. Wyndham Clark, a little bit better. John Rahm, much better on bent than he is on POA. We have Sneds, same thing. Zach's pretty even, but Henley. So you can see more and more of these golfers have better bent grass stats than they do POA. Just kind of trying to show you, use bent over POA. That's really all that the purpose here that I'm trying to tell you. But as a golfer, as a competitive golfer, I know bent and ryegrass pretty much act the same. I also lived out here for 3 years of my life, or 2 years of my life. I've golfed these golf courses before. I've golfed on the Pete Dye golf course. I know what you're going to get yourself into. Bent grass, I'm telling you, these greens roll just like bent grass greens. They roll just like, if you've ever golfed on a rye type of golf course, normally you wouldn't unless it was kind of a cheaper golf course. But most golf courses, like I'm from Minnesota. So in Minnesota, we have bent grass greens primarily. Sometimes POA makes its way over here, but more often than not on these golf courses, it's bent grass greens. When I went from here over to the desert, I was basically putting on the same type of grass. Now, it wasn't, don't get me wrong, it wasn't, but the ball reacted the same way it does on bent. So that's kind of my controversial take. That's what I was trying to get at. Use bent grass stats this week instead of any other ones, unless you have rye. If you have rye grass stats to use, whether it's putting around the green, those are going to be the most important ones. Off the tee and approach, not so much, but anything short game related. You have ryegrass stats, use those. Otherwise, I would say this: don't use any grass stat. Just ignore it all completely. Do not look at POA. Do not look at Bermuda. Just don't. Please don't. So that's what I have with the golf course. Way more or longer than I thought I was going to do this one. But yeah, this is an interesting golf course, and I really don't know if it really matters that much. You know, it's just knowledge and information for you guys to know. It's a way for me to provide what I know. It kind of, you want to call it like a show off, you know, me being able to show off my knowledge to you. I did go to school for golf course management. I had to take a bunch of agronomy classes. I know the differences of grass strains and how they react to different environments, the ideal growing conditions. I know all of that stuff. This is not Bermuda. Don't look at Bermuda, please. For the life of you, do not look at Bermuda stats. Here's my hierarchy of things. Look at ryegrass. If not, then look at bent. If not, don't look at any stats at all. That's my top 3. Look at rye, number 1. 2, look at bent. 3, look at nothing. Do not look at Bermuda. Do not look at POA. Don't do it. Okay. That's it when it comes to the tournament and course information. Yeah, a little longer than I thought, but oh well. It was good. I enjoyed it. Moving on. Let's go over the past optimal lineups at this event dating back to 2018. Just get kind of an idea of what, basically how we want to build our lineup. So this is 2018 we're looking at. If I'm being honest, I don't have the points to prove that this is the optimal lineup or not. It may or may not be. But leaving $3,300 on the table is not very realistic. So I created a realistic lineup, which really is almost the same golfers minus a couple of the third place guys. So we started with an 11K golfer, and then it's 5 7Ks. Now you can look at the rest of the golfers on the screen. It's mostly 6 and 7K golfers outside of Jon Rahm, Austin Cook, Bud Cauley. So we have 2 8K golfers here, 10K and above golfer, and then the rest are 7 and 6s. So just in 2018, we're kind of going down to the trend of these are going to be low price guys that you want to play. Going in 2019, leaving a bunch of money on the table once again for the optimal lineup. I think I recorded the points in here. I guess not. I'm showing $4,300 left on the table. That's basically grabbing all the guys here at the top. Again, can't confirm. I don't have the points. But a more realistic lineup was leaving $400 on the table, still grabbing a 10K golfer, grabbing a 9K, an 8K, 7 and 2 6s. Now, I kind of cherry picked this because I wanted to start with a 10, 9, 8, 7, and then either choose another 7 or choose another 6, depending on if I could fit it in the salaries. But you have all 6 golfers inside the top 12. That's going to be good enough to win a GPP. I don't know if that is the sweet spot optimal. It could even be the optimal. I'm not sure. I don't have the points to confirm or, deny. So lots of different ways you can go here, but a low 6K golfer won the tournament in 2019. In 2020, Andrew Landry won this tournament, $6,500. So I call that the upper 6K range. Anything 64 and below is the lower 6K range. But you can see the optimal left $5,500 on the table, and I actually recorded the points as well as the golfers. That's impossible. Don't leave $5,500 on the table. Don't do that. The GPP winning lineup used up all $50,000 that year. And what they ended up doing is they had a Scotty Scheffler in their lineup, Sung J M, so they went 11-9, Brian Harman 8. We have Bud Cauley at 7K. Let's see, where's the other guy? Cameron Tringali at 7K. He was down. See, this is what I'm saying, like 43rd place. You could literally have a 6. You could have 2 of your golfers down there and still probably win a GPP. But then we go with Andrew Landry. So to review, this guy had a 10-9-8, 7-7-6 lineup right here, winning the GPP winning lineup. Now, I created a more realistic lineup that used more golfers inside the top 10. We start with Ricky Fowler at 11K, go to Scheffler at 9K, Answer at 8, Bud at 7, and then 2 low, well, 1 actually high 6K and 1 low 6K. So we're doing that 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6 once again. And I think that's probably where we want to be building our lineups even this week when we get into the pricing and looking at the buckets and stuff like that. In 2021, your optimal lineup actually used up all 50,000, believe it or not. It was not the same as the GPP winning lineup, but well, let's look at the differences. Your optimal lineup used $11,000 Patrick Cantlay, $8,200 Siwoo Kim. We have Cam Davis at 7K, Abe Answer at 9, Michael Thompson at 7, and Doug Gim at 6. So to say that in a different order, we had a 10K golfer, a 9K golfer, an 8K, 2 7s, and a 6. So already the American Express is kind of showing you, well, except for 2018 where that was a 10K and 5 7Ks. Each year since that, so 2019, 2020, 2021 so far, we've had a 10, 9, 8, 7 start. And then this year, obviously had another 7, so 2 7s and a 6. The 2 years prior to that had 2 6Ks as opposed to 2 7Ks. So keep that in mind. Now, the GPP winning lineup for the $1 used a 10K Tony Finau, 9K Abe Answer, 8,200 Siwoo Kim, an 8,100. So we're using another 8K golfer and Brian Harman, and then 2 7K golfers. So we're not even touching the 6K, and that's how you win a GPP in 2021. In 2022, your optimal lineup left $700 or $7,000 on the table. Sorry, excuse me, $7,000 on the table. That's a bit unrealistic. So let's not do that. But that GPP winning lineup, your optimal lineup basically used all 7 and 6Ks. That's impossible. Don't even think about it. I think, who was it? Moose from Fantasy Golf National. I forget what it's called. I don't use it, but the website that a lot of the other top guys use for data analytics. He had a $43,000 challenge before. You could have gotten the optimal lineup that year if you'd have picked those golfers, which would have been cool. Like, that'd have been fun if someone in that challenge, trying to keep your salary 43,000 or less in players that you use, getting the optimal lineup. That'd be awesome. Let's skip that because obviously that's impossible to get to. Your GPP winning lineup left $300 on the table. It used an 11K Jon Rahm. Surprise, surprise. It used an $8,700 Christian Bezuidenhout, and then it used 7K golfers for the remaining. Hold on, maybe I had that wrong. Where's the other guy? Did I not get? Oh, it's Swafford. Jeez. Can't believe I missed that. Yeah, your GPP winning lineup used an 11K, 8,700. Then we have 3 7Ks and a 6K. So we're missing that 9K. Jon Rahm's pretty expensive at 11.3. You go from that to Christian Bezuidenhout, that was 8,700. Those two golfers alone, they cost quite a bit. So skipping a 9K range is not hard to do when you start with an 11.3, but you still kind of follow that 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 approach. Remember, I tell you can make up to 2 substitutions for your price tags. So what I mean by that is, we have a 10K in Jon Rahm, right? I'd say then go to a 9K. You don't like anyone in the 9K, drop that 9K down to an 8 or a 7, and that's what they did here. So they went Jon Rahm. Maybe they're undecided with the 9K range. They start with Christian Bezuidenhout after that. Then they drop down. They're like, I like 3 7K golfers. You know what? I'm going to transfer one of those 9s down to a 7, and now I have 3 7s and then a 6. That's how the substitutions work. So that actually works out for this lineup. But again, if you start with the 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6 and say, you know what? I'm going to sub 1 9 down to a 7. That's how you can get on a lineup like this. So that was 2022. Now a more realistic lineup left $800 on the table, which I usually keep my optimizer 49,000 and above. I could get here. That used a 10K, a 9K, 3 7s, and a 6, just like the GPP winning lineup. So you're seeing trends. We see at least one 10K, at least one 7K. And then it's just a mix of 2 7s and a 6, a 7 and 2 6s, or 3 7s, no 6s. Something like that. And then fill in your 9s and 8s however you want. I think you could probably do that this week. So we're actually going to skip. We're actually going to move from this tournament to a review of the Sony Open. And then we're going to come back to the bucket system, which we'll also talk about salaries there. So let's do a review of the Sony Open. 2023 results. Siwoo Kim is your winner. He chipped in on hole 17. It was amazing for birdie to go up by 1. No. I'm sorry, to tie. Hayden Buckley had just made a birdie on 16. 10 seconds later, Siwoo Kim makes a birdie on 17 by chipping in, which was pretty remarkable. So Siwoo ties him there. Hayden Buckley comes to 17. He does not birdie 17. 17 was pretty tough. So birdieing 17 was really good by Siwoo. While Hayden Buckley is putting on 17, Siwoo Kim tees up his tee ball like he's about to hit a driver, but pulls out a 3-wood. Imagine that. Most of you golfers out there probably be shaking in your boots to see your ball 2 inches up from the ground and hitting a 3-wood. I thought that was crazy. It was ballsy, but he's good. Siwoo was good. So he did it. He was comfortable with that shot. He did it. Put it in the bunker. Not super great. Goes on to make birdie from there. He puts that ball on the green. Makes birdie. Hayden Buckley hits his drive. Barely stays in the intermediate rough, which is that cut between the fairway and the rough. Unfortunately, hits that next shot short and right. Kind of stymies himself. It's a really hard up and down. Puts it to about 10 feet, 11 feet, something like that, and misses the putt. So Siwoo makes birdie on 18 to go up by 1. Hayden just needed to birdie that hole as well as a par 5. So, you know, and it's one of the easier holes on the golf course. Doesn't make birdie, pars it. Siwoo is your winner. Pretty amazing. That was great. It just shows you how crazy this tournament is. When we look at your optimal lineup for the 2023 Sony Open, it left $4,900 on the table. We're not doing that. Not even getting close. Your GPP winning lineup left $800 on the table. That's the first time I've seen any GPP winning lineup in the last, it feels like 6 months, that left more money on the table than $300. Because usually your GPP winning lineups use 49.7 and above. This one, 49.2. Had Siwoo, had Hayden Buckley, so 8K, 7K, another 7 in Lipsky, 9K in Taylor Montgomery, another 9K in Russell Henley, and then a $7,500 Nick Hardy. So no 10K golfer, which is kind of what I was preaching in the preview videos, that you probably want a 10K golfer this week. But when we go to the buckets, you'll see that it wasn't for certain. It wasn't an anchor bucket. We went over that in the strategy video. 10K golfer, or the 10K range, was not an anchor type of play. So again, we'll go over that here shortly. A more realistic lineup. So that GPP winning lineup scored 610.5 points. Your optimal lineup scored 677. So there's 67 points roughly between the two. Your realistic lineup would have scored 629.5. Now, realistic to me is actually, I should call this the sweet spot lineup. So let's do that. Sweet spot lineup. And what I mean by that is if I pull up the optimizer, where's it going to go? Right in the middle. So pull up the optimizer. I put in everyone's DK points as the metric. So let me zoom in. Put their finishing points right here. I hit run optimize with all of the conditionals in. When I don't put the conditionals in, it still looks at the marquee tee times, because that obviously gets put into the optimizer. But if I put all these conditionals in as I had it before, what I like to do to try to determine success with the bucket system is to see if we follow the buckets strictly, find the best performing golfers to follow this criteria to see what points they score, to see if we would have taken down a GPP. Scored 629.5 points. So this one's different than what I have on the screen, I believe. Oh, no. This is that lineup. Okay, good. I was kind of messing around with it. I wasn't sure which one I saved. But you would leave $600 on the table. It would have scored 629.5 points. I have that all highlighted in green here. This was using, actually, it's not using a 10K golfer, but we start with a 9K, we go to 2 8s, and then fill it in with 3 7s. So like it's your 6 golfers, leave $600 on the table. We score 629 points. The GPP winning lineup scored 610. So we could have taken down a GPP following the sweet spot process. We're still pretty far behind with the optimal lineup, but again, the whole goal of trying to hit the optimal lineup is to aim small. That way we miss small. If we miss the optimal lineup, chances are we're going to hit the GPP winning lineup, which we would have done, obviously, if we would have picked the right golfers. Now, personally, for me, I chose nothing but 10, like to start my lineups with 10K golfers. I think I left like maybe 5% of my lineups to be built outside of 10Ks. So I started with the 9K golfers. Believe it or not, oh, well, not so much believe it or not, those are my only 6 out of 6 cuts made. I did play Hideki Matsuyama in some of my lineups, and he was the only 10K golfer to make the cut. But the only ones that I had 6 of 6 through the cut were the ones that started in the 9K range, which is obviously what you should have done here. It's very infrequent that your optimal lineup or your GPP winning lineup doesn't have a 10K golfer in it. So this is more of an anomaly. I wouldn't use this going forward and saying, aha, see, I knew 9Ks were going to, finally, or 9 and 8Ks, a more conservative build, a more balanced build was going to, it's always better no matter what. And that's what you should go with. No, not when it comes to winning in GPP. So, yeah, sure. In this one, yeah. Okay. I'll concede. We've got one tournament over the last 70 that used all 9Ks, or not all 9Ks, but started in the 9K range. Hold on. Started outside the 10K range. That's a better way to put it. Wow. Great percentages there. Anyways, moving on to the bucket system, just to show you how well the buckets did. Now, I have this column over here that's called success. This tells you whether or not that bucket was successful for this year. So we see a bunch of no's on here, but I'm going to put a filter on this because we have to get rid of the recent form buckets, which you see one of the no's. Go ahead and do that. We have our anchor buckets in there right now. By the way, as you can see, salaries, no 10K golfer. So what an anchor means is you want to play a golfer from that bucket. You can see 2 misses right here, which I think we can probably talk about. I think, yeah, we'll talk about this. So let me remove these filters. I forgot I even had them on here. Okay. And recent form bucket is removed. So we had a total of 30 buckets in total. Because again, we removed the recent form buckets. That's 6 out of the 36. Now we have 30 left. 4 of them failed. 4 of the buckets failed. And they failed for different reasons. The course history 5 bucket, which were missed cuts and withdrawals. If that's what you average, that's what bucket you go into. I had 0 to 1 finishing inside the top 10. That was my projection. Now I could cheese this and say, well, my conservative projection over here, you can see it says 1.17. We always round up, so it goes to 2. There were 2 golfers in the top 10 from that bucket, as well as 2 in the optimal lineup. As long as that number doesn't exceed or fall under my projections, it's a success. So technically, this did succeed. Also, technically, I could still build a lineup and win a GPP. As you can see with the Sweet Spot Optimal, the one that I built, I used 0 of these golfers and still took down a GPP, theoretically or hypothetically. Theoretically. So it still works out either way. This bucket, I would say, was a success. I shouldn't even so much say success. It just wasn't needed to win a GPP. Last week 1s, last week 2s. This is your contentious position this last week. Do you want to play someone who played at the Tournament of Champions? And if so, how well did you want them to finish there? Because obviously I keep track of that. So I have your top 20 finishers, as well as your 20 to 40 finishers. So you can see they're both anchor buckets. You want at least one of these golfers. So let's take a look at the 2023 leaderboard. We're looking for recent form, or I mean, last week 1s and 2s. Well, I have Corey Connors down here, who is a last week 1. I also have JJ Spawn. Both of them finished 12th. Now, Adam Scott was a last week 2. He finished 21st, as well as JT Poston. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, first of all, some of these guys scored more points. Like Adam Scott scored 92.5 points. He scored more points than Nick Taylor. He actually tied Maverick McNeely, and he had more than Aaron Baddeley as well as Matt Kuchar, who all finished inside the top 10 for results. So this is kind of an evolution here with the bucket system. I used to just look at top 10 finishers, just their finishing position. Now we got to bring in DraftKings points because that's what really matters. Can we still win a GPP? Well, if I used Adam Scott and I used Corey Connors in my lineups, yeah, I could have taken down a GPP. They would have fit in those buckets. And also another thing to point out, Corey Connors finished 12 under. He had a really short putt on 17 that he could have made for birdie. Obviously, he's really bad at putting, so, you know, that's a moot point. Could have finished inside the top 10. Adam Scott, I think, also parred hole 18. Where is that? Where is Mr. Scott? These guys were 2 shots away from finishing inside the top 10. So again, I look at the top 10. I judge everything based off of guys finishing inside the top 10. These guys were, well, Corey was 1 shot away from being inside the top 10. Adam Scott was 2 shots away from being inside the top 10. Those guys would have fulfilled those buckets. So again, I could say this was a success. I'm not going to, because that, you know, I think if I'm projecting somewhere between 1 to 3, and then also my conservative number is 3.04, like my max projection, which means 4, I'm looking at somewhere between 1 to 4 golfers from that bucket to finish inside the top 10. Well, last week 1s, I guess I did have 2 that were really close. They're 1 shot away. KH Lee finished a few strokes away from top 10 as well. It didn't work out. Let's face it. It didn't work out. They weren't successful. Still a high success percentage when it comes to the buckets hitting. And then our last year 2s, I projected somewhere between 0 to 2. Minimum projection, we look at our max conservative projection. This really should say yes. I don't know why it doesn't, because I know why it doesn't. I'm not taking these numbers into account right now. I'm just looking at our min and our max. Usually I want a 2-point buffer no matter what, so I'd always read this as 0 to 2, although this right now says 0 to 1, round down with the minimums, round up with the maximums, which means it doesn't matter if you use the optimal lineup or the sweet spot optimal, this bucket was successful. So what I'm trying to say is very close to being 100% successful with these buckets. I'm not going to take victories for these 2 buckets. Course history 5s, yeah, probably won't take, well, if I start using my conservative max projections, I think I've seen enough where I think I should. This is taking in the sweet spot rankings and then applying them to the buckets for each of the golfers that represent that bucket. To me, I think using my sweet spot score is probably the best way to do it, because currently I'm just looking at OWGR as well as like the success rate for each of those buckets and how many golfers are in each of those buckets. So that's how I'm kind of providing my projections. I should probably use the sweet spot score because I really like my scoring system when it comes to ranking players. So that is your review of the Sony Open. Bucket system did pretty darn well. We didn't have a 10K golfer finish inside the top 10. I thought we would, but you can see this isn't an anchor bucket. It max projections 2. And remember, if this number isn't over 2, then our minimum automatically goes down to 0. So we had 0 inside the top 10. One guy only made the cut. It was kind of a weak 10K range. I mean, like Tom Kim, obviously a really good golfer. I wouldn't say so much like it was weak because of him. We had Tom Kim, we had Jordan Spieth, who's just extremely volatile, was leading the event after round 1, and then just blows up, shoots +5. So did Rory Sabatini, by the way, which I wouldn't make those comparisons and really have it mean anything, but that course was somewhat tricky. I don't understand what really happened. Plus, I think Spieth just said he just hit a couple bad shots, and that's what led to everything. Plus, he had a cold putter. Yeah, I guess I could take his word for that. I thought he was a really good play. I played him in most of my lineups. And I had some really good lineups with him and Montgomery. I started those two guys together with Adam Scott sprinkled in there. I also had Taylor Montgomery sprinkled in there. Not Taylor Montgomery. I'm sorry. I already said his name. So Adam Scott and KH Lee. I was really, oh man, after Thursday's round, I'm like, this could be the week. Could be the week. And of course, you say that too soon, you get screwed. So unfortunately, didn't work out. But it was fun nonetheless. Again, I think the bucket system did pretty well. Now the marquee tee times, I did say that was the end of the review. I forgot. We need to look at the marquee tee times. So just to show you this really quickly, I group rank these based off of their sweet spot score. Your top group is ranked number 1. Your next group, so on and so forth, 2, 3, 4, that kind of stuff. There are 9 total marquee tee times, really 7, quote unquote, total. What we're looking to see here is at least 2 guys in the optimal lineup from the marquee tee times. We see 0. I think this is the 3rd time this has happened over the last 70, 80 weeks. I have to actually keep track. I should keep track. That we didn't have anyone from the marquee tee times finish in the optimal lineup. So it was, yeah, I guess overall, it was kind of a failed week for the sweet spot process. We did have 2 guys, though, that would have taken down a GPP if we would have went with Adam Scott as well as Matt Kuchar. So we could still grab 2 guys and win a GPP. So I guess, yeah, let me pick myself back up. We could still win a GPP, which means we would have, we would win if we'd have selected those 2 golfers as our golfers to anchor around, which we're not doing. Like I'm not going to pretend. We're not picking those guys, but I think Corey Connors is in here. I'd imagine. Maybe not. I don't see him. I guess not. Really? Yeah, Corey Connors not in the marquee tee time. Okay. I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. So Russell Henley would have been your top 9K. But yeah, I'm not building lineups starting with Adam Scott and Matt Kuchar. Like I'm not anchoring my lineups there. I'm grabbing a 10K golfer that I see in here, or maybe one of the higher 9Ks that I like, and starting there. So obviously we can't do it with Sung Jae. The only 10K you could have done it with was Hideki. I'm not doing that. Like I'm gonna be real with you. I'll just say the marquee tee times failed. We could have grabbed 3 golfers, I suppose. And Adam Scott and Kuchar could have been them, or could have been 2 of them, and then we just grab a 9K somewhere down here that didn't miss the cut. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't work out. We're not getting there. I'm not even going to try to because I personally, one of the rules of the marquee tee times is don't select more than, well, first of all, don't select more than 2 golfers from a group, but really just try to stick to 1 golfer from a group. So if I'm going with Adam Scott, I'm not choosing Hideki Matsuyama. Same goes with Matt Kuchar. If I play Matt Kuchar, I'm not selecting Hoagie or Russell Henley. So then when we look at the rest of the 10 and 9Ks in these anchor buckets, or not anchor buckets, the marquee tee times, none of them even made the cut. So yeah, marquee tee times failed this last week. That's a bummer. Again, percentage is low overall. I'm just going to, just move on. Keep with the process, move on. There we go. Now that is the end of the review. No more reviewing of the Sony Open. That is your review. Let's move on to the bucket system for the American Express. So again, if you're following along with me, there is a link in the description below. Check that link out. That'll get you straight to this cheat sheet that I'll have on the screen right now. You can go ahead, put that filter on here as well. It's called the bucket system, and follow along with me. So I'm going to go ahead and put my filter on. Again, with your cheat sheet, go to File, make a copy. That way you can use those filters. But basically what I'm going to do, I already removed recent form from here. So recent form was selected. I unselected it, or deselected it, I should say, because I'm not recording recent form for the American Express. Technically, this is the 3rd event back, and usually I want 2 events prior when recording recent form. But the first event was the Tournament of Champions. Now, Tournament of Champion golfers, yeah, a handful of them went over the Sony Open. Now, from the Sony, for those two events to this event, it's going to be even a smaller handful. So really, we have one event for most of the golfers. Some of them have two, which does work. But the majority of golfers in this field have only at most one. And that's just not enough. So starting next week, I'll start putting the recent form buckets back in here and we'll be able to analyze those. But we remove a recent form from the buckets to look at, and we'll just start from the top down. One quick reminder, when we look at the projections, I know I have them in a weird order. I have max projection on the left side and min projection on the right side. I don't know why I did that. I think I just wanted a max projection first, and then like transferring the formulas were easier just moving it one way or the other. I don't remember why. I should clean that up going forward, but just more time that I don't need to be spending. I can just explain it to you here. Max projection, always round up with the number. So if we were to cross-reference, so we're looking at last year 1 buckets, and then we look down at the max projection, we see 2.47. You round up. And that's what you do with every other projection. These are my projections of golfers from that bucket finishing inside the top 10. A different way to say that is, I'm projecting these many golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10, like your max projection and then your min projection. You can see how many golfers are in each of those buckets here with the bucket totals for this year. You can compare it to how many are in that bucket on average. This is helpful because you might see a pretty high success rate, which we don't really see with any of these buckets. But let's say, sure, we'll use that first one. 13.64% is pretty good. 100% of the time, we see at least one inside the top 10 every single year that finished inside the top 20 from this event last year. They finish inside the top 10 the following year. That's kind of how you look at that. That's what that frequency rate means. At least one has finished inside the top 10 every single year. Well, we have 13 in that bucket this year. On average, we just have north of 19 usually. So we're 6 golfers less or short than we normally see per year. That plays a huge factor into it. Obviously, I do, I apply strength of field points to this bucket with the golfers that are in it. We still have a pretty healthy projection, somewhere between 1 to 3. So keep that in mind when you look at the bucket system and when I go through this, because I'm not going to continue to talk about, all of these things. That means that let's move on. Let's go into our last year 1 buckets, or just our last year buckets, and we'll start here with the last year 1 bucket. So I'm projecting somewhere between 1 to 3. So 1 to 3 from this bucket. Let's go ahead and look at some of these golfers too. I'm going to do that with each one of these buckets. So go to that cheat sheet. For you guys, it's going to be called the dream sheet. Go ahead, put that filter on, and we can just actually sort through, or I should say filter out, only last year ones. This bucket is headed by Jon Rahm. Has Patrick Cantlay in it, Sung J M, Will Zalatoris, Brian Harmon, a lot of good golfers, put it that way. I imagine we're going to see at least one guy from this range inside the top 10. Pretty certain of it. I am projecting somewhere between 1 to 3 inside the top 10. One thing to keep in mind, we might have both Jon Rahm and Patrick Cantlay finish inside the top 10. If that's the case, more than likely you can't build a lineup with them because they're too expensive. But remember what we went over with the past optimal lineups? There are a bunch of 6 and 7Ks in those optimal lineups. One optimal lineup had all 7Ks with one 11K golfer in it. We also had one optimal lineup that, again, using optimal lineups, we had nothing but 7 and 6K golfers in one of the other optimal lineups. You left like $7,000 on the table. I'm not advocating for that, but you could sub out one of those 6 or 7K guys and put in a Rahm. You probably still even have enough money to, move up with one of those other 7 or 6K golfers to another reasonable price guy. You might be able to go Rahm, Cantlay, 3 6s, and a 7K golfer and have a pretty good shot at taking down a GVP, especially if these guys do finish inside the top 10. Do not feel afraid of building a lineup like that. I think it's possible. Otherwise, pairing up any of these 10K golfers with one of these 9K golfers, super simple, super easy. And you will have enough, salary left over to make some damage, to do some damage. I think you do want, 2 7s and a 6, or basically you want 3 golfers, whatever mix you want between the 7 and 6K range. So do with that as you like, build your lineups however you want, but feel confident that you could select at least 2 of these guys, if not 3. I think it's possible. So that's your last year 1 bucket. Moving on to the next one. Last year 2, we want somewhere between 1 to 3. And we can also look at the conservative max projection over here. So I am projecting somewhere between, they stay 3. The projections still max out at 3. 1 to 3 last year 2s. Now these are golfers who finished in that 20 to 40 range last year at last year's event. And it makes things so much easier to select, right? Now we had 2 of the other 10K golfers, Scheffler and Finau. And again, we could have Cantlay and Rahm finish inside the top 10. We could also have Scheffler and Finau finish inside the top 10. And those would satisfy the projections. Doesn't mean you can build, so when you're going out, when you're thinking about building lineups, you might not be able to actually grab a golfer from either of these buckets. It really depends on who's going to finish first. If one of the 10K golfers finishes first, obviously you want them. If none of the 10K golfers finish first, you could probably roster any of them, especially if they all finish inside the top 10. So let's do a hypothetical. Let's say Scotty finishes 5th, Finau finishes 7th. You also have Rahm, who finishes, so say tie for 5th, and Cantlay, who finishes 9th. Now between 7th and 9th, the placement points aren't really huge. So it really depends on the DK points. But altogether, 5th to 9th place, again, probably with placement points, doesn't make a huge difference. It's all about DK points. So you could literally have Cantlay in 8th place score more points than any of these guys finishing 5th or 7th. It still probably doesn't matter. You're pulling hairs at that time or at that moment, because I guarantee you they don't finish outside of 10 points from each other. Like, it'd be really insane. You'd have to have one golfer just tons of birdies with some blow up holes to keep him out of first place and to score way more than these guys. So if those are the projections, 1 to 3 from each of those buckets, and you have 2 10K golfers from each of the buckets finishing inside the top 10, you could build a lineup with 2 of those guys, but more than likely you can only build a lineup with 1 of them, and the buckets will be satisfied. So I'm only mentioning this because it's taken me a long time to learn this. These projections can still be successful. It does not mean you need to seek out grabbing golfers from these buckets. To me, I want to start here and figure out, okay, which golfers do I want to build my lineups around? When I look at the 10K golfers, what's the likelihood these guys are going to finish inside the top 10? Obviously, 10K golfers have a really huge, very big likelihood of finishing inside the top 10. No kidding. But we could start making arguments as to how they could not finish inside the top 10. John Rahm blows a gasket. He gets really upset because the round is taking too long. Just takes him out of it mentally. He doesn't finish inside the top 20. Finishes 21st like he did last year or the year before. Finau, for whatever reason, can't make a putt on any of the greens. He only birdied the par 5s and finds himself, maybe he misses the cut. We could forecast something like that. Cantlay can't make a putt. Same thing. Scheffler, I think Scheffler's probably the only safe one. But I don't know. It's how do you feel? It's just whatever you like. Now, you could also make arguments for some of these 9 and 8K golfers that we see in each of these buckets also performing pretty well. So I think right away, when it comes to these last year buckets, last year 1 and last year 2, we have a lot of big decisions to make. I'm not at all worried about the Sony Open's performances with the 10K golfers and the 9K golfers there. I'm liking this. You get 3 rounds with these guys. I highly doubt we're going to see any missed cuts from them, and also any finishes outside of 30th place. So it's really figuring out which one it is. But kind of like what I just said, it probably doesn't really matter. I think you just can anchor around any of them and go from there. So yeah, a lot of interesting 7K names, a lot of interesting 8K names. I mean, if we really want to build our lineups around some 7K golfers, we have a bunch of good ones here. Even Grayson Sigg, Nick Taylor, I don't mind. And 6K golfers, yeah, not terrible. Lucas Glover, $6,700, 56th of my ranking so far. Pretty good choice. So yeah, 1 to 3 from here, probably pretty easy to do that. The next bucket's the last year 3 bucket. Somewhere between 0 to 1, but remember we want a 2-point gap between this. So I would say 0 to 2 to be safe. But my conservative projection's actually 0.69. If this was over 1, like usually when I say, you know, have a conservative or have a 2-point gap, it is already showing for the max projection over 1, meaning we round up to 2. But we don't see that. In fact, we don't really have a really high success rate, a really high frequency rate. We only have 8 golfers in that bucket this year and averaging 13. So that being said, what do our last year 3 golfers look like? Jason Day, no thank you. Davis Riley, I don't mind. Aaron Rye, I don't mind. And then the other guys here. I mean, Doug Gim had a good finish here last year, I think. Or 2 years ago, I think it was. I don't mind like Doug Gim. But yeah, a bunch of just lotto tickets down here. Do with that as you will. I'm moving on. Last year 4 bucket. Again, same projections, basically 0 to 1. And I'm pretty confident with that. I'm pretty comfortable. So 0 to 1. We'll look at last year 4s really quickly. Cageley, Grillo, Taylor. I don't mind these golfers. There's only 4 in the bucket, so just with that, not a great, not a high likelihood, but some quality golfers. This is usually a bucket I just stay away from, period, because the 60 to 80 range, for whatever reason, whether it's your last year buckets or your last week buckets, not great. So probably just staying away from this, although I do like KH Lee. Probably just going to stay away. Let me just set this up with last year 5s. It's good to see Taylor Pendrith up there. We'll have some things to talk about. Looks like we're projecting somewhere between 0 to 2. And even our, you know, I'm just trying to click on this so it matches the color. But our conservative max projection is 1.65, which we round up to 2. So 0 to 2, we have Pendrith, Ricky Fowler. That's interesting. Chris Kirk played really well last week. I don't mind playing him. A lot of interesting plays here. I like Pendrith. I like Fowler. I like Kirk. I don't mind putting a flyer on Munoz. Probably going to stay away from Brendan Todd. Don't mind Brendan Steele. Don't mind Callum Tarran, or Taryn, however you say his last name. Vegas, I don't mind either. A lot of these guys I don't mind. Again, we want 0 to 2. So I'm not going to really invest a lot of my exposures to these golfers. If anything, they're one-offs. I don't mind sprinkling them in, or perhaps, you know, because I really do like Taylor Pendrith, 26th in my model this week. I don't mind playing him and just anchoring around him and then saying no thank you to the rest of these guys. You literally can do that. That's what I love about the bucket system. But again, we're projecting 0 to 2, so there's the likelihood that we might have 2. I'll just skip past it. I think choosing 1 is at best. That's what you want at most, I think. Now, I could look at the frequency. We have anywhere between 1 to 5 golfers from this bucket finish inside the top 10. We do have a 100% frequency rate, but a really, really low success rate. So 8.33%. To put that in perspective, so we have 43 golfers every single year at this event. Let's see. Let me put a calculator on the screen, because this is what I used to do to try to figure out how many I truly want. So if we have 43 golfers and we multiply that by 0.0833, that's our percentage, comes out to 3.5. So, hey, if you want to use that, you most certainly can. maybe that's how I should do the projections from now on. Just take the success rate times the bucket totals just to give you the true max of what you want from each of these buckets. 3.5. I should actually look at some of my past buckets that failed when the amount of golfers inside the top 10 finished, or there were more golfers inside the top 10 than what I projected, just to see if that kind of max projection would actually follow suit. So that's interesting. 3.5. Now, again, 1 to 5. Here, let me pull up the buckets just to show you guys what this looks like. So going to the last year, actually, hold on, I'm sorry. Last year, your top 10, kind of going all over the place, top 10. We're looking at the last year bucket right here. Last year, I know the numbers are weird. I have to change that, but this is the bucket we're looking at. 1 year, we saw 1 golfer from that bucket inside the top 10. Otherwise, we've seen 2 or more. So maybe that 3.5 is actually a pretty decent max projection. And going back to the golfers there, yeah, I don't mind building with, 2 or 3 of these guys, really. Especially when you want to build a bunch of 7 and 6K golfers in your lineup. I don't mind whatsoever. Like, Pendrith is a great 8K. I don't mind going to Ricky Fowler. He had some flashes during the fall swing, like was the Zozo or the CJ Cup where he finished second. I mean, good. Possible. This is a perfect tournament for him, by the way. He's a very social person. It's his way to network and stuff. I don't mind Ricky Fowler this week. The last bucket, last year's 6s. These are golfers who did not play the year before. So we're looking in the 2022 American Express. Golfers who didn't play there, they find themselves in this bucket. We have 68 this year. We normally see around 57. So that, big leap in numbers. I'm projecting anywhere between 1 to 4. Our conservative max projection says 2.59, so that's 3, really. Another low success rate, but 1 to 5 golfers from that bucket inside the top 10 usually every single year. I shouldn't say usually. It's the minimum. The minimum's 1, so we see at least 1. And again, if we're looking at the same buckets up here, only 1 year have we seen 1 or less. Otherwise, we've seen 2 or more in every single year. So going to the last year 6 bucket. Now, this also includes golfers who have no course history. This includes golfers that have great course history. We have our last 10K golfer here, Xander Schauffele, who is battling a bad back. Don't know how I feel about that. Tom Kim, on the other hand, I kind of like him this week. He hurt us last week because of really, really bad putting. He's a good putter. He's going to turn that around. Tom Kim wouldn't be a terrible person to go back to. But yeah, so I'm projecting anywhere between 1 to 4. That, I think, is a perfect projection here. There's a lot of good golfers here at the top. And then we just have a ton of golfers in this bucket, period. So any of these guys down here even have the opportunity to finish inside the top 10. Could possibly happen. How about we pull up that calculator again and do the actual maximum? So our success rate, not great, like we said before. But we have 68 golfers in that bucket. Multiply that by 0.0632. We get 4.2. So 4 is actually a pretty solid max projection to have. 4 golfers from that bucket. Starts with Xander. Couple good 9. Well, really 3 good 9K golfers. Montgomery, not terrible to go back to. Same with Cam Davis, Keith Mitchell. Those are great names to go back to. I like Thomas Dietrich this week. So yeah, super interesting. Super interesting. And considering that the top 2 last year buckets have so many 10K golfers in it, I mean, I think we could hit projections and not actually use those buckets. The last year 1 and last year 2 buckets. Because if we have some 10K golfers that do finish inside the top 10 there that do not finish better than 7th place, we really make the argument that you don't want to grab golfers from those buckets. So, I don't know, up to you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Who would you rather go with? Or how would you start your lineups using the last year buckets? That's a good one to provide. Moving on to the last week buckets. Here, how about this? Let's make this really easy. Go here and we'll take out all of them except for last week. That way we won't have all that noise to contend with. Can I even zoom in further? No. No, we cannot. Can I type it in maybe? Oh yeah. Perfect. Last week ones. Let's cruise through these. I don't want to spend too much time talking about each one. But last week ones. We're looking at 0 to 2. Conservative max projection of 2. So we're really just looking 0 to 2 from golfers who top 20'd at the Sony Open. That is what the last week 2 bucket is. Or I'm sorry, last week 1 bucket. 0 to 2. We have Siwoo Kim, who won last week. Probably not going to go there. Don't mind Taylor Montgomery. Don't mind Andrew Putnam. Chris Kirk, sure. SH Kim, I really like this week. And a bunch of... Make your pick. You know, we want 1 to 3 or 0 to 2. I forget what I already said. 0 to 2. So yeah, I think that's perfect. People coming from from Hawaii, from the Sony Open, we could see each one of these guys not hit the top 10. But on the other hand, I could see 2. I mean, I could see Siwoo playing really well once again. Same with Taylor Montgomery. He's solid, man. Super solid. The only shaky part of his game is his approach game. He hits the ball a mile. I'm not too concerned. His short game can more than make up for it. This is your prototypical, like, well, I should say prototypical. That's a bit zealous. I would say when Montgomery hits as far as he does and has the short game that he possesses, I don't think this guy really plays worse than... I think he makes all of his cuts. He's going to have like one of those 90%, 95% cut made percentages on tour. When he dials in his irons, though, he's going to be extremely dangerous. So I do like Taylor Montgomery. And then the rest of these guys, I don't mind. Choose, take your pick. I think it's totally fine. Looking at last week 2s, 0 to 2 as well. Conservative max projections the same way. Frequency rate's 80%, so it's not a full 100%. And your last week 2s are the following golfers: Harmon, Brian Harmon, Cameron Davis, KH Lee, JT Poston. All great choices. No issue playing any of these. Again, 0 to 2. We have Denny McCarthy. Pretty good short game. This course will be just fine for him. Brendan Todd, Will Gordon, Steven Yeager, Carl Yuan, Kevin Yu. I like Kevin Yu. He's a really good young player. Even Tyson Alexander down here at $6,400. I'll let you know right now, he is currently in my dummy lineup because watching him play the Sony Open, the guy's solid. I have no issues playing Tyson Alexander. He has no course history, did not play last year. That's fine. So, yeah, interesting choices here. 0 to 2. Let's see what the ultimate max projection is. I think I need to start doing this. So we have 16 golfers here. Multiply by 0.12. Yeah, 2. So 2 is the max. The max. Okay, cool. Going to the next one. Last week 3s, that 40 to 60 range. So golfers who played the Sony Open finished between 40 and 60. We're projecting anywhere between 0 to 2, just like the other 2 buckets. So this is kind of like the last week buckets. It's kind of just a pick and choose. Like, don't feel afraid of playing golfers from the Sony Open, but also don't load up on them either. Tom Hoagie, $8,400. Quite the discount from last week. I don't mind going back to Tom Hoagie. Brendan Steele, Grayson Sigg, Justin Suh, Adam Long, Davis Thompson, by the way. What was it? What stats did I see that were good? Yeah, so overall Bentgrass stats. 2 events, averages 10.5, 50% inside the top 10. So that's like a 9th and an 11th. Or is that? No, that'd be 10. Like a 9th and a 12th. That's pretty darn good. I might just take the risk on going with someone like Davis Thompson. Funny story here. Davis Thompson. I was looking him up last week because I was thinking about playing him. I'm not a religious person. I actually don't even care if you're religious at all. Like, I'm not one of those types of people that I'm going to say, like, you know, I'm better than you or feel inferior to you because you're religious and I'm not. I really don't care. Whatever makes you happy makes you happy. I do have an issue with professional athletes like Davis Thompson, who you go to his PGA Tour profile, you scroll down and you read the notes section because you can get some kind of interesting pointers from some of these guys, like whether or not they like Bermuda grass, if their favorite type of golf course is this, or their favorite designer is that. You can find that information there. One of the top ones for Davis Thompson was he prays before every round of golf. I don't know why. I just don't like that. It's like, I'm a firm believer, especially with a golfer, you are responsible for what you do on the golf course. I'm not going to leave it up to faith to provide success for me. So I don't know if that's a thing, like a big deal. I'm just providing that information because I think it's kind of silly. Not to offend anyone who's religious. I don't want to do that. Again, do your thing. I'm not going to critique you for that, but I just don't. I like Davis Thompson. I don't like that religious part of it, though. I don't know if it hurts him. I don't know if it helps him. I just don't like it. Moving on. Bramlett, I like. MJ Duffy. I know it says Mathis. That's just how my database works. So MJ Duffy, pretty decent player. I could see playing him. I actually had someone message me saying, "Hey, Augusto Nunez. I just followed him on a practice round. The guy hits the ball super well." Take that for what you want. I believe he's a young kid. I think 2 years ago he was like 19 years old. Maybe he was even younger than that. You want to take a flyer with Augusto? I don't think that's a terrible idea. Not really high in my rankings and doesn't really hit a lot of the buckets that I really, care for. So anyways, that's your last week 3 bucket. Your last week 4s. You want somewhere between 0 to 1. Now, again, I automatically kind of bump that up to a 2. How about this? Let's do this. This is just going to be our end all be all. No, you don't want more than 1. Okay, cool. I'm sticking to that. Don't want more than 1 from the last week 4s, and I wouldn't disagree because I don't like that 40 to 60 or that 60 to 80 range. We've got some notable golfers here. English, Aaron Rai, Russell Knox, Troy Merritt, Patton Kizzire. Yeah, this is wonderful. Pick one of these guys and then skip the rest. Wonderful. Love that. Moving on. Last week 5s, 0 to 2. I'm not going to pull the calculator out for that. That's fine with me. 0 to 2 works. These are guys who missed the cut last week. So you want somewhere between 0 to 2, or at least that's what we're projecting to be inside the top 10. No, it's not an anchor bucket. Nope, not an anchor bucket. So it's not for me, for certain that we will get one inside the top 10, but probably a good choice. We have Sung J M, Tom Kim in this bucket, Keith Mitchell. I like these 3 golfers. I could even pair 2 of these guys up together. Here's the wonderful thing about this bucket. You don't want to pair up more than 2. So if you like some of these guys down here, you're going to hamstring yourself by picking 1 or more golfers, additional golfers to go with them. So, I like that. This is going to really limit you in building your lineups. This is why I love the bucket system. So actually, I am going to do the calculator thing. I bet it's actually a lot higher than, let's see, 0.0495. 2.2. So 2 is the max. 0 to 2. Okay. It's obviously really good to know. And again, my buckets are taking into account the strike the field points that these golfers bring with them. So just so you see, Sung Jae accounts for 18 of the strength of field points. That's pretty high. Tom Kim accounts for 13. The rest of the bucket, pretty pitiful. And if I were to open this up to everybody, you can see where these guys rank. So if I were to do top to bottom, Sky Scheffler brings in 44 points. Rahm brings in 30. Cantlay, we get 7 golfers down, and that's where Sung J M is. And then you go another 4 golfers down from him, and that's where you get Tom Kim. So that bucket is actually pretty decent. But it's still projecting 0 to 2. That's because of the success rate. So really do with that as you want. I personally going to probably stay away from it. So Tom Kim, Sung J M, Keith Mitchell, and I don't mind fading like a Bazane out or any of the other guys down there. I do like Alex Smalley. I'll say that. I think Alex Smalley is a good choice. All right. Last bucket from the last week buckets. Golfers who didn't play last week get a huge bonus. We're projecting somewhere between 2 to 5 golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10. We already know with some of these golfers, we have Rahm in there, Scheffler. We have a bunch of really good golfers in this bucket. Yeah, I mean, look at it's loaded with top names. So 2 to 5. With that being said, maybe you can only roster 2 of these guys, especially if some of these 10K golfers. Remember when we were talking about the last year buckets, last year 1, last year 2? Well, Cantlay and Rahm are in the same bucket. They could finish inside the top 10. So too could Scheffler and Finau. Remember when we were using that example? If those 4 golfers do finish inside the top 10, at most you can roster 2 of those guys. But also, probably just 1. You know, it really depends on what fills in after that. If it's nothing but 8K golfers and 9K golfers, then you probably want to do the 10-9-8, 7-7-6 method. Or maybe we do 2 10K golfers and then go down to the 6Ks. Anything can happen this week. So this bucket can get fulfilled really easily just by the guys at the top, meaning you exclude the rest of these guys, which there are too many good names to do just that. Like, this is a crazy bucket. I am going to use the calculator for this. This is what I'm going to start just putting it on the screen that way. I'll tell you why it doesn't go the way that I'm currently doing it. So 53, multiply that by 0.0755. We have 4. So 4. Wow. Okay. I'm cool with that. Basically, the numbers that equal up, that total up here for the max projection is 10, and the minimum is 6. Because you want to pick 6 golfers in your lineup. That's how I do my minimums. And the maximums, yeah, I mean, I could do it the way that I was just showing you, taking the total number of golfers, multiply by the success rate. The only issue with that is we're not taking into account strength of field points, like the quality of the bucket. There are issues. That's why I have it the way that I have it. So I don't mind doing it this way, especially, you know, at most we usually only see 10K golfer or 10 golfers in the top 10 of a leaderboard, but sometimes we get ties and we get anywhere between 11 to 19 golfers inside the top 10. You can certainly do that. That can happen. It has before. And then those projections do work out that way. So I don't know. I have to toy around with it. You guys let me know how you feel about that. Let me know in the comment section. But yeah, that's a big bucket to use. All right, moving on from the last week buckets, we're going to go right into the course history buckets. Start with course history 1s. These are the guys who average a top 20 finish at this event for their entire course history. We have 7 golfers in this bucket this year or this week. We usually see an average of 7 in that bucket. Again, 0 to 2. And it's a 50% frequency rate. So half the time we do see golfers from this bucket inside the top 10, half the time we don't. And this bucket is headed by John Rahm, Sung Jae-im, Will Zalatoris, Cameron Davis, Adam Hadwin, Lee Hodges, Dave Lipsky. I think it's pretty fair to say 0 to 2 is a very good projection. You know, we could see Sung Jae-im in that with John Rahm. We could see Zalatoris in it as well. Same with Cameron Davis. Maybe we don't see John Rahm in it at all. Maybe this is a great time to start to play someone like Will Zalatoris, which I have no issues doing at all. I do like Zalatoris a lot this week. Let me load up the course history 2s. Going into the course history 2s, we're projecting somewhere between 1 to 3. And even our max projection is very similar to that. It's 2.3. So round up, that equals 3. 87% frequency rate. So that means 1 out of the last, 7 years, we did not see a golfer inside the top 10 from this bucket. Otherwise, we normally do. Looking at course history 2s, Scotty Scheffler leads this bucket with Patrick Cantlay. I think it's safe to say one of these guys, just those 2 guys alone, mean that this bucket's going to hit. I think we're going to have at least 1 golfer inside the top 10 from this bucket. If it's not those two, Burns is a great choice. Harmon's a great choice. Cameron Young, yeah, another good choice. Sahith Theegala, like that guy. We could really make arguments for just about each of these guys, except for probably Lingmerth and Albertson. So hard bucket to choose, but you want somewhere between 1 to 3 out of that bucket. Looking at course history 2 or course history 3s, 1 to 3 here as well. Everything's the same as the last bucket. So let's take a look. Course history 3s. This is that 40 to 60 range. This is their average finishing position. And it's actually headed by Tony Finau. And then it drops from a 10K golfer down to an 8K golfer in Tom Hoge, KH Lee, Wyndham Clark. 1 to 3 from this range, I think, is pretty reasonable. We have a bunch of golfers in this bucket, most of them in the 6K range. But anyone 7K and above is pretty live, honestly. I think, yeah, again, I could make arguments for each one of these guys except for Jason Day. Just not going to play Jason Day. I'm going to not play Jason Day, and I'm going to be totally happy not playing Jason. 7,900. If he was like 72, I'd probably play Jason Day. I have no issue with that. 74 is probably my max, but I'm not touching Jason Day. Although I suppose he has had a lot of time off, so probably has rested his body. Once he gets into the flow of things, I think it's easier to fade him when he starts golfing more events. So anyways, 1 to 3 from this bucket. I think it's easy to do that. Let me load up the next one before we talk about it. Course history 4s, somewhere between 0 to 2. Pretty average projections here. We have a 62% frequency rate, so not super great. Let's go ahead and take a look at our course history 4s. Aaron Wise is your top price guy here, $9,000. I do like Wise this week. I don't mind Keith Mitchell. I don't mind Denny McCarthy, Patrick Rogers. They're all good choices as well. So a lot of good options here. It's really up to you. Just pick your poison. 6K range, not super great. So 0 to 2 from this range. Wise, obviously, my favorite, one of my favorites. I do like Will Gordon this week. Matthew Neesmith actually has my attention as well so far. So good choices here. Load the other one up before talking about it. Course history 5s. All right, so your course history 5 bucket, we're projecting anywhere between 0 to 2 inside the top 10, and that pretty common with the conservative max projection. We do have a 100% frequency rate. So these are guys who average a missed cut at this event. Xander Schauffele, that's impressive. Tom Kim, Taylor Pendrith, those 3 guys alone, I think pretty easy to select a golfer from them and put in your lineup. I personally like Pendrith. For all the buckets we've seen so far with Pendrith in it, I do like Pendrith. And then we kind of just quickly dive into the 7 and 6K range. So yeah, I think the 0 to 2 projection really relates to the guys here at the top. I'm probably staying away from Schauffele. I'll be playing a lot of Tom Kim, Taylor Pendrith. No problems doing that. I just don't know. I'll probably just mix and match some of these other guys. But if I was to really choose anyone, Pendrith is my guy, followed by Tom Kim, and then I don't know where to go from there. The last bucket in the course history buckets to talk about is the 6th bucket. These are guys who have not played ever, this event ever. And we want somewhere between 0 to 2. So let's take a look at who heads this bucket. Taylor Montgomery, $8,900. Pretty good. You get a lot of rookies in here, by the way. Like, you can kind of already see the bent grass events. Everything is less, pretty much all of them are less than 15. All but 2. So these are your rookies, obviously. Yeah, Montgomery, Dietrich, Burmester, these are 3 good golfers to play. No issues there. Matthias Schmid seems interesting. 2 events on bent grass, 1 top 10, a 33.5 average finishing position probably means that's probably like a 4th place finish and then like a 70th place finish. It's not super great. It's very volatile, so I wouldn't even look at that percentage and take anything with it. I guess the rest of these guys, not a big deal. So 0 to 2, right? Is that what our projection was? 0 to 2. And I'm more comfortable doing 1. Like Montgomery, Dietrich, or Burmester. Or SH Kin. Hold on. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of good names as I go over this. Actually, Carl Yuan, Justin Sub, Ben Griffin, SH Kim, Burmester, Dietrich, Montgomery I like Kevin Yu, Eckroat, and Tyson Alexander. Otherwise, I'm probably staying away from the rest of the guys. Don't really care. So that wraps up your course history bucket. Now let's get into our salaries, which kind of, we did talk a little bit about this with past optimal lineups. Remember, every lineup that was a GPP winning lineup or even a realistic lineup that I created started with a 10K golfer, a 7K golfer, and then had either another 7K golfer in it or a 6K. So really it's choose a 10K golfer, choose a 7K golfer, and then in the next position you select, choose between another 7 or a 6. And you're going to be on the right path to be building your lineups. And then fill in the rest with whatever. 9K, 8K, several 8Ks, couple 9Ks, doesn't matter. However it works out for your lineup. But having a 7K golfer in there and a 10K golfer seem pretty imperative. And then that third position, you want either another 7 or another 6. Seems that's the way you want to go. Anyways, we're not going to talk about the golfers in the salary ranges. 1 to 3 10K golfers. I think that just tells you want at least one. 100% frequency rate that we see at least one 10K golfer inside the top 10 of every single year. That's enough reason to actually select a 10K golfer. We have a projection of 0 to 2 for 9K golfers, and the conservative projection max projection doesn't move that up. So yeah, stick to 0 to 2. 80% frequency rate. So I'm guessing for the last 5 years, we've had one golfer from the 9K range inside the top 10, just one year it missed. So do with that as you will. I think it's okay to play a 9K golfer this week. It seems pretty reasonable. 8K 0 to 2 as well. Not a high frequency rate, not a great success rate. And my max projection still 0 to 2. 7K range, 1 to 3. Max projection holds up. 100% frequency rate. Decent success rate, especially when you compare it to the 8K range. Like 7K range, pretty well, pretty decent. And there are 42 golfers in that bucket this week. That's going to help. That's a volume-driven bucket versus 10 in the 8K range. Yeah, pretty simple. Now, what's also interesting is that high 6K range, so 6,500 to 6,900, we have seen at least one golfer in that bucket every single year finish inside the top 10 as well. So it's going to be harder to choose, and you really just only want 0 to 2, it looks like, from this bucket. Maybe just keep it 0 to 1. But yeah, we have seen a high 6K inside every single top 10 dating back to 2018. So at the American Express, by the way. So yeah, do with that as you will. And then our last salary bucket is the low 6K range. 0 to 2 is our projection there. Again, harder to choose golfers from this one. I'd do one at most. I would do no more than 2 6K golfers in a lineup. I will not go to 3 6Ks. I just suggest you guys don't do that as well. Pick one or pick up to 2 6Ks. And if you are going to do that, so a way that I'd like to build is if I do 2 6Ks, I'm either doing 2 upper 6Ks, so 6,500 and above, or 1 low 6K plus 1 high 6K. I will not do 2 low 6Ks. That is way too volatile, way too difficult. So I'll just stay away from that. And it didn't even look like the low 6K range was all that great this week. Like Tyson Alexander, $6,400. It's probably my favorite one in that range. And you could probably pick like 3 or 4 from that range that seemed okay, but you are dancing with volatility pretty hard. So I don't know. I'd probably stay away from it. I think it's a smart thing to do. And by that, I mean, stay away from picking 2 guys from that range, and don't get married to anyone in that 6K range either. Just my piece of advice from long years of experience. The last buckets to talk about are the strokes gained buckets. If you have no idea what this means, check out that bucket system video in the description. There's a video link there. That'll get you here and it'll explain all about the strokes gained buckets. I'm not going to talk about those here. Strokes gained 1 buckets. And by the way, everything in the cheat sheet has the buckets, numbered right here. So whatever I'm saying here in the summary page and the bucket system page, whatever I'm projecting, you can go in there and filter out by those. So if I say strokes gained 1, you can literally come here and only take a look at the strokes gained 1 buckets and the golfers that are in them. And then you can try to figure out what it means, or just watch the video and I'll tell you what it means. So again, there's a video link that talks about the bucket system to go along with the strokes gained buckets. Strokes gained 1 bucket, by far the best bucket to choose from. It has the best golfers in here. We have 21 golfers in this bucket this year. We usually see 7.5, which is pretty remarkable. It means they're, and by the way, I haven't seen this great of a field here in a very long time. I mean, like, strength of field's 403. Last year, strength of field was 321. So, I mean, it's pretty high. 80 points less than it is, 80 points more this year than it was last year. And I don't know what the strength of field was here. I wonder if I have a video that shows it in 2021. Sad that I didn't calculate it then. But anyways, 403 is pretty high. Your average strength of field event on tour is about 270. So yeah, strokes gained 1. I mean, look at all of our 9K and above golfers. We have how many? 10. Again, we already talked about Cantlay, we talked about Finau, we talked about Scheffler. We also talked about Rahm, but Rahm is barely in the strokes gained 2 bucket. Talk about these guys probably finishing inside the top 10, and you can only roster 1, maybe 2 at most. But if you feel way more comfortable with some of these other guys down here, remember the max projection is 5. We're looking at 2 to 5 golfers from this bucket to finish inside the top 10. So yeah, it could be Scheffler, Finau, and Cantlay finishing inside the top 10. That could happen. We also have 2 spots where, 2 other golfers could actually finish inside the top 10. And you've got a whole plethora of golfers down here that are very, very rosterable. Thomas Dietrich, for sure. Sahith Theegala, yep. Cameron Davis, Aaron Wise, Cameron Young, Brian Harman, like, good luck. It's hard to not think that all of these guys could finish inside the top 10, because I can make arguments for each one of them except for Jason Day and probably Xander Schauffele. Those are golfers I cannot make arguments for finishing inside the top 10. I just don't trust them. Like, I just don't trust Jason Day. And we don't know what Xander's back is like, truly. Back issues on tour, the #1 killer in a golf swing. So even if he's somewhat healthy or he's good enough to play, doesn't mean he's fully recovered. And you don't really fully recover from a back issue in 2 weeks. So kind of wondering why he's playing this event. I don't know if it's going to be great for him. He's going to do a lot of standing unless he sits on the grass. So that's not really good for your back. Anyways, 2 to 5 from this bucket. Strokes gained 2. We're looking somewhere between 1 to 3 inside the top 10. Max projection sticks with that. 100% frequency rate. I already tell you John Rahm is in this bucket, but I imagine we have a couple other good golfers in this bucket. Taylor Montgomery, Tom Hoge, $8,400 Tom Hoge, by the way. $8,100 Wyndham Clark, Keith Mitchell, Patrick Rogers. Yeah, S.H. Kim. Probably all I want to talk about. Yeah, great bucket here. 1 to 3. Choose whoever you like. Strokes gained 3. We're looking at 0 to 2. This has a 100% frequency rate as well, but it's not as confident. 0 to 2. We've actually seen at least 3 in this bucket. There's 39 golfers in that bucket this year, and we usually see 41. I imagine this has a lot to do with past years just having better golfers in those buckets. So let's see here. We're looking at 20. Let's go to 2022 first. Swafford, he was a strokes gained 3 guy. $6,700. Lee Hodges was a $6,400. But yeah, there's Will Zalatoris. He was $9,100 in that bucket. Francesco Molinari, but I'm not going to say he was good last year. So yeah, 4 golfers from that bucket inside the top 10. Okay. 2021, we have Francesco once again, Paul Casey once again, and Benny Ann in that bucket. I'm not seeing any really high price guys from that bucket. 2020, here's Abram Answer, Sammy Burns, Sung J.M. All Strokes Gain 3 guys. Sung J.M., yeah, we could use him as a good golfer that's in that bucket. The other two, I mean, I guess Abe Answer at $8,900 was a good one, and we all know how good Sam Burns is, so it's crazy he was $6,100 at one point in time. Crazy. I don't have oh, I do. Salaries are way over here. Adam Hadwin, $10,000. He was a Strokes Gain. Oh, he wasn't a Strokes Gain 3. Let's see. Strokes Gain 3 would have been, it's positive off the tee and negative putting. So Taylor Gooch would have been one. JT Poston at that time would have been one. He wasn't a positive putter. That's crazy. John Rahm was a Strokes Gain 3 golfer that year as well. So yeah. So that was actually, yeah, John Rahm, 11,600. He also had Adam Hadwin was positive putting. It was Adam Long that was, nope, he was, so it was Gooch, Rahm, Poston. Cantley was a 1. That was it. It was just those 3. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. Gooch, JT Poston, John Rahm. We have a $7,200 guy, 11.6, and a $6,400 guy. So another 6K range golfer who was a Strokes Gain 3 guy. So that's super interesting. That's crazy. So going into the Strokes Gain 3s, remember it's 0 to 2 is what the projection is, but we've seen at least 3 every single year. Taylor Pendrith is there, I like that. I like Davis Riley. Chris Kirk, Alex Smalley, Will Gordon, Dean Burmester, Brennan Steele, Lee Hodges, Luke List, I even like. There are a lot of good Strokes Gain 3 golfers here. I mean, do we want to try to figure out what the 6K golfer is? Because that's usually what we see from the Strokes Gain 3 is a 6K golfer inside the top 10. Could be Eckroat. He did well last week. Brendan Wu is actually in this bucket. That's that looks pretty good. Danny Lee, I don't mind. Or kind of a dart throw. Joseph Bramlett, I like. Oof. These guys down here are hard to look at. Like Kramer Hickok has I've bit the bullet with him too many times. Like I can't play him. Devin Chappell seems interesting. Mr. 59. And then Augusto Nunez, my buddy in the desert right now, is telling me how great this guy was hitting it. So those are also choices. Yeah, I don't think I want to select anyone else. But 0 to 2, and again, we've seen at least 3 every single year. Now, my Strokes Gain stats only go back 4 years, so take that for what it's worth. Actually, it might be 3 years for this event. No, it was 4 years. Yeah, 0 to 2. I think that's safe. I'm cool with that. I don't want to do more than that. Strokes Gain 4, 0 to 2. We're also see a 100% frequency rate with 1 being the minimum here. So Strokes Gain 4. Sam Burns leads it off. They're guys that are negative off the tee. Burns isn't usually negative off the tee. I'm guessing he clubbed down enough times and found the rough, and that's how he has negative strokes gain off the tee stats. He's not a strokes gain off the tee negative guy. So seeing him here, he's probably a strokes gain 2 guy at on a normal day, and strokes gain 1 on a good day. So seeing him up here, yeah, I mean, if there's going to be a guy, it's probably him. But hey, we've got Putnam, Hadwin. These guys are good at this golf course or at these golf courses. A lot of these guys, no issues playing. I'm probably, again, I'll stay between 0 to 2. I'm cool with that. I could play 0 golfers from this bucket. I could play up to 2 golfers from this bucket. Probably staying away from the low 6K range though. I think I'm totally cool with that. I don't need to play any of those guys. Stroke chain file. Let me load this up before talking about it. We want 0 to 1, and that actually remains constant with the conservative max projection. And Ricky Fowler's really David Lipsky, I guess I don't mind, but okay. I see more golfers that I like. Fowler, Lipsky, Knox, Taylor, Van Rooyen. I don't mind Charlie Hoffman. Andrew Novak. Again, we want 0 to really it's 0 to 2, but I don't think I want more than 1 golfer from this bucket to be in my lineup. So the ones that I just select, I think are good enough. And then the last one is stroke gain 6. We have 1 golfer in that bucket this year. I'm not even gonna go over it. So I think that's gonna conclude the bucket system and the stroke gain buckets. An hour 50 minutes. Okay, I think this might just conclude the video altogether. Let me go ahead, bring this down. Just a reminder, I do giveaways. If you want to be a part of it, all you gotta do is be subscribed to this channel, comment down below. Comment on any of the videos that I post this week. You'll get a free entry per video that you comment on. So you can't get multiple entries per video. So like if you comment 4 times on a video, you're only gonna get 1 free entry from it. You're not gonna get 4 free entries. It's just limited to 1. So keep that in mind. I do appreciate just the engagement. So if you're really asking me questions on those comments, I'm all for it. But if you're just trying to post like as many comments as you possibly can, the only thing that you're going to get out of it is being the top commenter, which Barry R has right over there. It won't get you more free entries into it. Now, if you're someone who is just coming to this channel for the first time, go ahead and comment on some of the past videos. That'll give you credit for the monthly giveaway. I'm cool with that. If you want to go back and comment on some videos that you haven't yet commented on to get yourself kind of an equal leg into the drawing that I'll be doing at the end of the month. We hit that subscriber mark of 500 subscribers, then I give away $50. If not, I give away a t-shirt with this logo on it. So up to you guys. I will reward you one way or the other. Again, Prize Picks, I have a promo code for this. You sign up using the promo code SweetSpot and put at least $20 in your account. I will give you your $20 back. Plus, Prize Picks will match your deposit up to $100. So your 20 turns into 40. It just requires you that sign up information as well as that initial deposit, and you'll have $40 in your account. And it really just costs you that sign up information. Of course, you can put up $100 in there and get that match deposit by Prize Picks and get $200 in your account, and it really only costs you $80. So up to you guys. There's a link in the description below that'll get you to the sign up page. Highly encourage you guys to do that. As well, throughout this whole video, you could follow along with me with the cheat sheet. That is also in the description below. I will be going live tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you want to, build some lineups with me, because I will be using the bucket system as well as the optimizer to do just that. I'll be building lineups, kind of giving some ideas on how you can build lineups following the buckets. Remember, we could have taken down a GBP following the bucket system last week. Despite, 4 of the buckets actually failing, that just means 4 of those golfers weren't inside the top 10. Like those buckets didn't have enough top 10 finishers in each one of them. That's why they failed. But we could have taken down a GBP with them. So building lineups with the bucket system, with the optimizers, very, very beneficial, very helpful, especially if you have the right core of golfers to sprinkle in the last 2 or 3 or 4 golfers to your lineup following the bucket system process. That will be available tomorrow. I'll also have the optimizer available for you guys tomorrow night once we get the tee times, because that's a huge part of it too, is the marquee tee times. So join me tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be live. have any questions ready that I will answer. I engage with the audience as much as possible. I try not to miss one single question, one single comment. So again, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's all that I have for you in this one. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe on your way out, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.